So, the Revolt Summit. My breakdown of the event coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. And as always, thank y'all for joining me today. So this Revolt Summit, it took place in Atlanta about a month ago. And this summit appeared to be put on by a bunch of pro-black race hustlers. And it was clearly that the moderator was left in meeting. Now, there were 6 people on the panel. Of those 6 people, the only 2 people that I have heard of prior was T.I. and Candace Owens. Now, I've talked about Candace Owens before, and I'm a huge fan of her. And I've often said I'm glad that she's on my side. I think she's the Larry Elder of just her generation. And T.I., I've been aware of his political stance for a while now. He's pretty much just another race hustler. One of these race hustlers out here who's crying about all this oppression, right? While he himself is doing well. This seems to be a common theme amongst these race hustlers. Now, this video is going to be on T.I. and specifically the things that the nonsense that he spewed, right? So to get right to it, and of course I have my notes here. Now, the moderator started the summit off with the opening question, and that was, what do you think is the most important issue for black people in this current political cycle? And everybody had a chance to respond. And of course T.I. Now his response was basically the typical racist nonsense of he's concerned about homegrown terrorism and crazy white boys with AR-15s, and he's concerned about the mass incarceration of black people, and he's concerned about police brutality. Okay, let's deal with the first thing. Homegrown terrorism. Now, I say this before, and I'll keep saying it because it's true. We are 13% of the population, right? Responsible for 51% of the murders, mostly against ourselves. We commit more murders than the other 87% of the population, against mostly against ourselves again. And we're worrying about homegrown terrorists or crazy white boys with AR-15s. Again, it's just stupidity. And speaking of AR-15s, AR-15s are responsible for a fraction of all gun crime. But that just goes to show you the stupidity of that argument. You know what I'm saying? We're worrying about white supremacists with AR-15s and niggas doing the majority of killing in this country. It makes no sense, again. Then he talked about the mass incarceration. Now, I've talked about this before. And I say the same thing as I've always said. If you have a problem with mass incarceration, stop the goddamn mass crime. You can't commit mass crime and then get upset because you are incarcerated in mass. It's just stupid. That's race hustlers for you. Then he talks about police brutality. I've dealt with that before. If you have a problem with police brutality, as I've said, then again, stop the mass crime. If you keep committing crime in mass, that's going to increase the rate in which you're going to have negative impacts with, a negative interaction with police officers. So stop committing mass crime. And again, you worrying about police brutality. Well, nigger brutality is way worse than police brutality. Now, when you hear people say police brutality, they never actually give you any evidence of it. You know, when they speak on police brutality, it's generally from the standpoint of isolated incidents here and there. You know, Tamir Rice and Philando Castile and such. But they never actually give you any statistical data proving it. They never say, hey, this is the rate in which black people are committing crime, right? And this is the rate of police brutality, and there's a discrepancy. They never do anything, they just cry. Again, there is no police brutality, mass police brutality against black people. You want to stop it? Stop committing mass crime. There'll be no need for heavy policing against black people. Now, the moderator, again, asked him the question about, and he posed this question to several people on there, and this is about asking black folks to go out and vote based upon those who died for you. Now, he rolled off a whole bunch of nonsense. Now, he first talked about how we need to motivate young blacks at a young age to go out and vote. And no question with that at all. Everyone has the right to vote. But voting is not why black people, or the lack thereof of voting, is not why black people are in the position they are. Okay, we're in a position we are because of the lack of moral character. And if you want to change that around, we need to fix the black family. End of story. Okay, so the next question, his statement was his agenda was to liberate his people and liberate black people. Now, liberate black people from what? Of course, he never said, but you know what? I would disagree with him on this, but I agree with him now. We need to liberate black people. Yes, physical slavery ended more than 150 years ago, and now we're dealing with this mental impoverished slavery that black people do. Okay, black people are mentally enslaved. So yes, we need to liberate black people from this mental slavery, but you're never going to do it by making victims out of them. And this is exactly what he's doing by constantly crying racism all the time. And I've stated before that victimhood only produces more victims, and he's never going to liberate his people by making more victims out of them. Then he talked about we need to create a self-sustaining ecosystem, a financial system. Completely agree. But and this is in the same vein as that we need to practice group economics. I agree. But as I said before, the prerequisite of group economics is economics. You're never going to practice economics until you start practicing. You're never going to basically have group economics until you start practicing economics in general. Black folks don't do that. We practice stupidity and victimhood. Now, if you want to create this sustainable ecosystem, stop being victims, roll up your damn sleeves and get to work and participate in this this economy just like everybody else do. Everybody else come in this country and prosper. Then he talked about how we can't do this without having the proper people in office. Again, bullshit, right? Because look at Asian people. When the people keep saying that, but Asian people, there aren't that many Asian people in office. How many Asian people are in Congress? I mean, you go to any city, the average city, how many Asian people are in city government? How many Asian governors do we have? Mayors. But yet Asian people outperform white people in every metric in society. Not because of putting people in place, because they go out there and do what it takes. They push their children more. Okay, they achieve they outperform white people academically because they push their children to do so. They do on average more homework than white people. So we have to stop with this nonsense of worrying about the people we need people at the federal level, but we need more people at the government, the local level. The only level that you need to be concerned about is your personal level. You do that, you will be fine in this country. Right? Then he talks about how you can't ask the people oppressing you to stop. You have to fight them and take that oppression off you. Again, how are black people being oppressed other than being mentally enslaved by all these race hustlers? It's bullshit, right? Then he asked Candace Owens about this quote-unquote idea of how she can line herself with people that doesn't denounce white supremacy. No, of course, this is against Trump. This is that bullshit about Trump, right? And first of all, when has Trump ever promoted white supremacy? He's never promoted it. Second of all, he's denounced it several times. This whole, what's the guy who's a Klan leader? They say, well, he supported Trump, and Trump like, well, I denounced the guy. Just video. I saw this montage video of Trump several denouncing. He denounced it Saturday. They asked him to denounce David Duke again Sunday. I'm like, it's ridiculous. Donald Trump has never promoted any white supremacy. So asking him to denounce it is ridiculous, which he has. But here's a question for T.I. When are you going to denounce all this black inferiority, the real problem facing black people in America? And of course, that question won't be answered. Right? Then he starts singing Big Ballin. I just made that video, just put out the video, Big Ballin singing. And as I've said, you run into these race hustlers, inevitably they're going to start singing Big Baller, right? He's talked about how he had white folks' money, right? So I'm like, okay, if you have white folks' money, meaning that you were able to go out there and earn white folks' money, well, how are you able to do that and no other black person in America can? While, quote unquote, being oppressed, right? Which is ridiculous, right? So and it just makes you wonder. So if there was, quote unquote oppression against a black man, would he have God's money or something? It's ridiculous, right? It's just stupid. And by the way, the average income for white people in America is something, I believe it's something like 58,000 a year, maybe less. So if you earn 58,000 a year, technically you have white folks' money. But moving on now. Now he basically never gave Candace Owens a chance to pretty much answer the question, because he kept going on and on and on. Right? Then he started talking about how Trump was getting the whole Charlottesville nonsense. He talked when he said they'll find people on both sides, even though we know exactly what Trump meant. He meant that there were decent people, peaceful people who were pro-statue. There were peaceful people out there who were anti-statue. And then you have the a-holes, the Antifa, disrupting people. They're the ones that is always disrupting other people's rally, because, by the way, this was a pro-statue rally. The anti-people could have had their own rally, but what did they do? Go out and disrupt someone else. But anyway, Donald Trump did not say basically both sides of white supremacy. That's idiot. How many sides of white supremacy are they? This is stupid. That's the best example or answer they could come up with to try to figure out a way to make Trump look bad in that situation, even though we know what he meant. And he basically, the videos out there of him specifically denouncing the quote-unquote white supremacists, whoever the white supremacists are, white nationalism, this and all this other foolishness. Trump denounced it. And right? So it's like just both sides of white supremacy is a joke. And by the way, I'm curious, how many sides of black inferiority are there? That's what I would love to know. But anyway, moving on. Now, the moderator brought up this BS claim about the whole Make America Great Again equals white folks going out and tag somebody. Now, I'm going to do a separate video on this here, so I will address that. But that's just nonsense. It's more bullshit of them trying to find something to come against Trump on. Now, T.I., at some point in the video, he asked Candace Owens about what period we should go to. And again, this is playing on that, Make America Great Again equals Make America White Again. And when has America ever been good for black people? That nonsense. Now, Candace Owens, she never really was given the chance to answer the question, because T.I., being the true leftist emotion, got all up in this quote-unquote emotion, kept talking, never gave Candace Owens a chance to answer the question, and it morphed to something else. But since Candace Owens never had a chance to answer that question, well, I will. Now, what point should we go back to in this country? Well, for starters, I would like to go back to a point where we weren't 13% of the population and responsible for 51% of the damn murder. So that would be a nice start. But anyway, this is a purely economics thing, right? We're talking purely economics here, not anything of race. Now, there used to be a point in time in this country, because we pioneered industrialization, and generally the nation that pioneers something are the ones who benefited from the most. But because we pioneered industrialization, as a result of this, at one point in time in this country, we were the world's greatest manufacturers, the world's greatest producers, and the world's greatest exporters. We exported to everybody. As a result of this is what made America the richest, most powerful nation on the world. We got rich off the back of industrialization, not slavery. That makes absolutely zero sense, right? Now, at some point in time in this country, and some people will say purposefully, and I agree, we went from being the world's greatest producers, the world's greatest manufacturers, to the world's greatest consumers, all now supported by nothing but debt. That is completely and totally unsustainable. Trump is saying, hey, let's start manufacturing, let's start producing again. Let's start doing more of what made this country the richest, most powerful country on the face of the planet. Okay? Has nothing to do with color. Has nothing to do with putting nobody back in any damn chains. Okay? Let's start manufacturing. Let's start producing. And this is going to benefit everybody. Okay, not make America white again, not make America black again, or green again, orange again. Make America great again. Let's start producing. So this is what Donald Trump means by, again, this is the period that we should go to. When they ask that question, well, when was America ever great for black people? Well, how about that? Now, Candace Owens again spoke the point that they got diverted to because T.I. didn't want to shut it damn mouth and let the woman answer the question. But she started talking about how spoke of facts that slavery was everywhere, and it is true. Slavery was everywhere, perpetrated by everybody. Everyone was a victim of it. There's nobody on the face of this planet, no race that's not guilty of enslaving someone else. That's just a fact of the matter, Everybody partook in it. Now, he said that in her speaking that fact, that she's diminishing the enslavement of the people who look like her. Now, unknowing to him, he did exactly the same damn thing that she did, right? So if he, like the rest of these race hustlers, wanted to limit slavery just to white people enslaving blacks in America, where he completely made the enslavement of people who look like him completely irrelevant, that being the Arabic slave trade, right? Now, the Arabic slave trade lasted way longer and was far more brutal than the transatlantic slave trade, right? So he basically, again, just did the exact same thing he accused her of. And that's just to go to show you how ignorant these fools are, right? And by the way, if you want to limit slavery just to America, then you are downplaying the enslavement and the mistreatment of everybody. So what he accused her of, he just did it on steroids. That's just, again, they don't think. They just repeat and regurgitate nonsense. Now, he also said this question of, he was attacking Candace Owens, right? That if you listen to a person for long enough, you'll know who they are. And again, I agree. And that's how we know how the fool he is, right? Listen to him for long enough, lets them know that he's an idiot. Now, the last thing I'm gonna talk about by T.I., and there was one of the people on the panelists, her name was I think Katina Pearson, and she basically said that this is why black people would never get anywhere. And T.I. made this claim that, well, black people are moving forward. Moving forward based on what? You telling me that the crime rates among black people are dropping? Nope. Is the rate of fatherless homes in America dropping? Nope. Is the rate of single parent households among black people dropping? Are we gaining anything economically in this country? Nope. So how the hell exactly are we moving forward? That's a question that should have been asked, right? Now, I think it was asked of him, but it was never answered because he can't answer it. But anyway, I've always said that the letters T.I. must stand for total idiot, because every time he opens his mouth, he proves it. And he's the type of person, again, these race hustlers, always keeping other black people down by making them victims while doing well for themselves. I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. There's too many of these race hustlers out there that are doing this, right? But if we want to get anywhere, and I keep saying this as black people, we got to stop with the BS. We got to stop being victims, because there's nobody in this country a victim. Okay, victimism basically is a mental thing. We have to stop mentally handicapping ourselves, and if we do that, we'll be able to prosper and do like anybody else in this country. Again, if he's able to earn white folks money, then what other black person in America who's not allowed to make black folks money? And I know the response that I'm going to get from the race hustler. They'll say, well, black people were even successful back in the days of slavery. They were black people owned their own business. I agree. You had something they were for higher slavery. So there were many black people who earned their freedom because of that. Well, if black people were able to do that back in the day when there was real oppression that you can point to, then what should black people be producing today? Anyway, y'all, this is my first video, my first breakdown of this Revolt Summit and the T.I. proving that he really is a total idiot. And I'll put out more I have several other videos that I have the breakdown of this Revolt Summit, but this is the first one, y'all. And as always, thank y'all for watching.